I'm Christina Fugis with MoldMaking Technology, and today I am here with the President of DME, Peter Smith, and the Director of Sales, Scott Smith. Welcome, gentlemen.
The two Smiths.
The two
Thank
Smiths.
you. Smith boys.
I mean, who would have thought that would have happened?
Right.
The Smith brothers.
That's the only reason he hired me.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, you look kind of alike, you sound alike.
Oh, yeah.
We get mistaken for Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
There you
Right.
go, all the time.
We're
Yeah.
twins. We're twins.
All right, before we get into
Sure.
DME specific innovations and different topics and trends, you had said something to me in the past during one of our conversations about mold making being an innovation machine, and I just love that and I think it really sums up what this industry is all about. That is what they are. But what did you mean by that?
So my experience with this industry is that we're really at the forefront of basically cutting steel for shape. And as we do that, there's so much opportunity for us. My background is resin. I started it back in 1984, Dow Chemical, in the resin business, cut my teeth in learning it through that side of the equation.
Okay.
Big industry, but there was never the level of innovation that I see in this industry. And every project is an opportunity for innovation. And more than I think ever before, the industry's got some challenges, but they're all opportunities.
Absolutely.
So we have way more opportunities as an industry for growth today than I think we've had in probably the last 2 or 3 decades.
And I think that's not the perception a lot of times
Right.
in this community. That
Absolutely.
they think it's something that's going away when every day, everybody that has sat here with me has said pretty much the same thing.
Right.
Every day there's a different problem to solve and they come up with a solution to that problem. And it's an advanced manufacturing technology or technique. It's not some old-fashioned way of doing something, it's something new.
Right, well
So-
we've had, 2 to 3 decades of transfer of manufacturing jobs from North America overseas.
Yep.
What we have now taking place is the tide is turned.
Yes,
And what we're challenged with, which is the opportunity, we're challenged with how do we do that?
yes.
And we've got to use our innovation and all the capabilities that we have as an industry, not to do it the way they do it, because they do it in a, let's say, a more low-cost, sort of commoditized fashion. We've got to use our intellect and our technology capabilities and all of that creativity that the industry has to reinvent ourselves.
Yes.
And the beauty is, the growth for the next decade is assured if we execute along that path. So it's very exciting, really
So
exciting.
speaking of that, so if you talk about global supply chain and all the reshoring that could happen, what do either of you see as what's the mold builder's role in all that? I don't know that sometimes they don't know.
Well, it starts with design, right? In my mind, you first of all, you've got to understand the trends, learn what those OEMs are trying to achieve, what the molders are trying to do from an economic standpoint, but then it's going into the world of design, and you have to think through design. Design represents, probably 80% of the ultimate value and the cost of an item is at the design phase. So that's our opportunity to bring all of our creativity to bear. It's where we have to combine as an industry, share with one another our technologies, showing new ways to do things. Because again, if we just tried to copy what they've done in other parts of the world, we're not going to win that game. We're going to win, as I said earlier, through innovation. And that's where the mold maker really has the ability to truly think differently. And today we're getting these trends that are in our favor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I think of when I think of sustainability, I read about it and it's seen
Hot topic.
it's seen as a threat, right? What I look at it is, wow, we're closer to the customer. We can bring in reusable type systems, modular systems, and standardization that allows us to take advantage of being close to our customers, bring more choice to our customers, and that means that anyone that's got an extended supply chain and can't listen to the voice of the customer will find it hard to compete. So we've got to play to our advantage, win at home,
Yep.
and the good news is we've got all this business that it belongs here. It belongs here.
Exactly.
So we're going to bring it home, and we're going to keep ourselves busy. Now we've got to, we're going to have to think about labor, right? And we're going to have to be, Scott, that's your big point,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep, labor.
I mean, tell me about some of your thoughts there.
Even you just look at where mold making is, right? We came through the pandemic. How big was mold making throughout that?
Huge.
Right? You go to buy a lawnmower now for the summer, the spring, all the new electric ones, those are all molds. Those are all guys in this room, in this building that are making all those parts, transitioning us into EV, right? So the strange part about our business, if you're not in it, so many people just don't even know about it.
Exactly.
But so they don't even know what actually happens, right? And how we actually transcend everything that goes
Everything.
on,
Yeah.
right? And that these guys are so smart, and what they can come up with is so innovative, right? But hardly anything happens that a mold maker hasn't touched somewhere.
Agreed.
It could be a die maker too, right? But if you think about it, they really drive the world.
They do. And it's a shame going through the past 2 years when COVID hit and how that, our marketplace, I mean, the light was completely on that industry.
Absolutely.
And it still breaks my heart that it's almost like we failed, like we didn't take advantage of that enough. Like that was the opportunity. Like if you didn't understand what a mold builder was, then, like
Yeah.
you couldn't, all those ventilators you wanted, I mean, respirator, but everything that we needed
We
came
did.
from a, yes.
Yeah. No, that's
and then,
right.
then we move on from it. It's like, oh,
But you know
what
I'm
could
not-
we have done? Where were the commercials on mainstream TV
Right.
to help that?
But you know what? I'm not as pessimistic in the sense that I do think OEMs are really waking up to the fact that this is a hub of innovation, and I really
There's that word again. I
Yeah,
like it.
I mean that's the essence of it, and I think you're seeing today across the boardrooms of North America dialogue and discussion. How do we bring back that business? You know, all this insecurity of supply chain,
Yep.
obviously inflation, cost of logistics. Like you probably talk to a lot of people, logistics costs from. It's all in our favor. So what we've got to do is to make sure that we bring that holistic thinking together.
That was going to be my next question, yeah.
Get the teams involved,
Yep.
right? We need to be good. These roles, program managers, they're kind of the essence. They bring us all together in a single sort of committed project, and I think collaboration amongst the players
Yep.
is critical. We've got to understand that the market's going to be bigger than. It's a beautiful scenario. It's actually the market's bigger than our potential. So what that means is that we don't need to fight as much as we need to think about innovation and really addressing industry issues. So for example, we've got to train our labor. You know, we've got to meet really, all of us, all companies have got to be getting back to the apprenticeship programs that we used to
Yep.
have, getting education as a centerpiece of what we do, understanding that digital and automation technologies prevail, bringing those into play, making sure that our
And they're
shops-
good things,
and they're
not
good.
bad
They're
things.
good things, right? They're going to play to it. So it's a time to invest, right? It's
Yep.
a time to make those investments in our industry. And if we do all of that, the OEMs are going to reward us by making those decisions to basically reestablish the whole footprint of manufacturing back here, and then we're going to be in a position where we're going to be a larger market. you know?
So when I think about the mold making market, I think they're incredible collaborators. I think
Very
the
much so.
suppliers to them collaborate. So from what you're saying, what's the missing piece there? Like who's not collaborating to
So
make this happen?
So I think it's, in my experience, it's a little bit at the OEM level,
Okay.
on the part design, and making sure that we in the mold making area are basically guiding them a little bit
Yeah.
of some of the capabilities that are possible. And so that raises new ideas, new solutions to the industry.
So if a mold maker's at the table, I mean, that we've been preaching that forever, getting
Yeah,
more and
yeah.
more involved earlier and
Right.
earlier. Inject yourself,
It's a
inject yourself,
community, right?
I mean, that
Yeah.
seems like the key to all of it. But sometimes some wait to be invited,
Yeah.
others charge in themselves. So what would
Yeah,
you
yeah.
recommend to that mold builder who says, well, I can never get that phone call. I'm not part of those discussions.
Well, I think, that's where we see partners like DME. I mean, obviously we see ourselves having a role to enable that, right? To get conversations with the OEMs. Maybe those OEMs do have their business overseas. And we're a global company. We've been around for 78 years. We know a few things. We're part of a group that practices in this area of really the plastics value chain. So we have a certain responsibility to help the industry by bringing these kind of opportunities to the table. And we would love to just network with our partners, our customers, other people in the supply chain, so that we can sit down and say, right, let's work on a program and let's talk about bringing those projects back to base. And I think it's collaboration. But it's got to be done with a degree of vision.
Yes.
Right? I think those trends that we're looking at, right? The trends.
Yeah, let's go through those because that's
Yeah.
where the opportunity lies.
I think
right?
so, right? I mean, sustainability is a classic example. I mean, I guess everyone, I read about single-use plastics being banned. Europe's taken a really strong position. There's work here in the US, similar sort of threats.
Yep.
But the reality is, I see that as an opportunity. This industry is the industry that makes durable type items. We can build closed loop systems, and we can bring a tremendous growth platform to us by taking that single use throwaway, and none of us like that, let's be honest. We don't want to see that garbage thrown around. None of us are proud of that. What we want to be is the industry that basically said there was the problem, now let's bring the solution. And I think, again, these are the kind of markets we've got. Electrification taking place in automobile, right? What we see at DME, we see that as an inevitable event, right? So it's going to be happening, a lot of investment going into that. What we get excited about is it's going to cause change, but we see it as now a potentially brand new market. We see the inside of that people mover being like the living room of the future. And in there, we need to develop parts and products and create basically a brand new market, just like, you know, I think it was Nokia and then Apple later, who kind of made a market for these things called cell phones, which didn't exist before. We're going to create markets that haven't existed, and it's beautiful because it's new opportunities, and we're the company that can basically mold things to meet the consumer's needs, right?
And you can do it for anything.
Do it with anything, right? So
you just have to think outside the box. I really like your, and we said this in prior conversations about changing the conversation. Get away from what the limitations are and what's happening and present, let's think about what's possible and then make it happen.
And that's what we find really interesting. We get calls from so many people that say, I'm stuck. And one of the greatest things we have is we have 5 engineers on staff. They get together, we pull them in a team, we say, let's collaborate on this, let's pull in the OEM, let's pull in the mold maker, let's pull in the custom molder. What are you guys trying to achieve?
I think that's right, Scott. I think the other thing is as a North American manufacturer, right? So we've been making, you know, mold bases and components and so forth, right, in North America. That, I'm so pleased, that's an asset, because what we understand is we understand the customer. You know, the fact that we cut steel here in the US, Canada, you know, we know what it takes, so we feel that that's the handshake we have. And then from there, hopefully we can bring some creativity in. Today, innovation for us is so important, right? We have to constantly be bringing the industry a stream of new product innovations, new systems, so that we can really create this very competitive environment that lets us on a global stage really represent who we are. You know, North America has more growth potential than any other mold making industry, right? I study, you know, as a global president, I get to see China, which it's well established. Europe never really let its manufacturing go, it hung on. We're the one region, big region, and we let it go. So that on the flip side, that hurt, right, for a few decades, but that means that we have more growth than anywhere else out there. And we know we have an infrastructure that's going to have to be reinvested in, right? So we've got that. We know we have transformation of industries like people, I call them people movers now, not even automotive, right? We've got construction and new ways, you know, energy efficiency. We're going to be talking about building houses where our products are going to play a bigger role. It's not going to be the old lumber industry that it was. We're going to be creating these new, more advanced systems. I always say building a house is like building a mold. You know, it's the thermal management system. It's all about the ergonomics, and I want to build the best damn house possible. Well, I think every mold maker wants to do that, right? It's almost like we're as proud of our product as we are our own homes.
I love that.
And that's our industry.
Perfect. That's perfect. Okay, before I let you go, do you want to talk a little bit about the company overall? Because it's not just DME, and I don't know that the story is really understood how much there is to offer.
It's our big mystery, right?
Yes.
So, you know, I think the nice thing is we're part of a group called Hillenbrand. Okay, so we're about a $2.5 billion company, work on a global basis, so that gives us some certain strength. But what's really neat about us is we start with the company Coperion. Coperion is the market leader really at the back end of all those polymer plants and increasingly in the recycling stream of things, a real leader in that. So we really are the company that makes that granule. And so that granule then gets passed over into the world of injection molding, and of course I think everyone knows Millicron, right? The old Millicron Cincinnati brand is well understood. There isn't many molder shops that I don't see at least one machine there, right? And so Millicron is really a bedrock of the North American molding industry, and so we've got that capability. And what really holds us together there is really our screw design capabilities. We're the leader in extrusion, and we are a very major player in injection molding, and it's what holds us together is really our innovation in screw design. And then from there, we go into the world that we all know, and so we've got a melt delivery solution. MoldMasters is part of the organization, right?
Yep.
Everyone knows MoldMasters, very high-end engineered solution for melt delivery. And of course, then we come into the world of DME, where we really hold the entire tool together with all of the elements that go into that. So we're really a turnkey solution to the plastic part.
Yes.
And what we want to do is to engage that strength and really help our industry bring all the things we've talked about today and really get us into growth, right? That's my, I think as Scott and I talk, right? We talk about, just grow. Just grow. And if we grow, it's like, when all the tide rises, everyone benefits, right? And that's really how we see this industry.
I love it. All right, gentlemen, I think that was a lot of information, a lot of good things to think about, opportunity. So before I let you go, we have these t-shirts.
Oh, perfect.
All right, I'm gonna test you. We have a hashtag, MoldMake, and we say molds make a difference. But Peter, what do you say molds make?
Well, based on what I've said today, I would say mold makes innovation for tomorrow.
Like it. Scott, molds
make me happy.
Simple
I
enough
get to
but
hang
true.
out with all these great people all the
That's
time.
right.
This week's been like old home week, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Some of us haven't
absolutely.
seen each other in a couple of years. I mean, there's more man hugs here than you can imagine.
Exactly, I love that.
Crazy.
All right,
Crazy.
so molds make innovation, molds make me happy. That is Peter and Scott Smith from DME Company. And that's a wrap. For everything mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com.